right. Welcome to The Porch, a podcast filmed and scripted by our wonderful Umoja Narco College students. We just want to invite you to pull a seat to the porch, grab your coffee, tea, sparkling water, or whatever, and just come by with us. This podcast was made possible through the RCCD Foundation as well as the Century Circle Grants and ANSNC. With that being said, enjoy.
I'm Talia Roma. I'm a second year, and we're Group 4.
I'm Kelsey Rivera, and I'm majoring in business management, and this is my second year.
My name is Sabrina Rioseko. This is my second year, and I'm majoring in art.
And my name is Kiera Clinton. My major is psychology, and this is my third year.
My name is Hala Shlabi. This is my second year, and I'm majoring in business accounting.
My name is Michael Karanja, a political science major, and this is my first year. So, Festus Claudius McKay was a poet and writer of Jamaican descent. In the Harlem Renaissance, he played a pivotal role. He moved to the United States to pursue college and his dreams. One of his most known pieces, which will be analyzed today, a widely circulated sonnet in response to the wave of white on black racial riots and lynchings that followed World War II's end, If We Must Die. So the first question I have for the group is, well, how did this poem make you feel by the time you have finished reading it?
Honestly, it was pretty, more emotional, just because of what really got me was the term when they had used, hogs, just because I feel like it was very, vivid, just, imagining, like he said, if we must die, let it not be like hogs. That's pretty vivid. You can really picture that just because it's pretty common. You can just even picture, hogs dying. So I think it's very graphic too, knowing that humans are possibly dying like hogs. So it was pretty emotional and vivid imagery reading it all.
It's very harsh too.
Yeah.
It's such a hard example to give. No one would want to die in that way, in that kind of way. So I was really sad when I was reading the poem, but it was really it was very meaningful to people who are reading it after what African American went through. I feel like it was a good point or a good image of what they used to struggle and how they were not only fighting for a normal life, but they were fighting for a normal death too, an honorable way. So
to take off from your point, when I saw the first two statements, the if we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. What I saw that as is, especially the hogs. Hogs are pigs, and at that point in time, especially in America, Islam became a huge impact in the black people. Trying to find themselves and figure out their true power and what power their skin and being holds. And in Islam, pigs are, and even Christianity in the Bible, it's tied to dirt.
yeah.
They're impure. They in the Islamic term is haram, which means impure, unclean.
Yes.
And so tying that back to the poem, they're being treated like unclean beings, and they're being killed like the unclean beings, and hunted and penned. That's I'd say the justice system, which went out of the way to hunt and jail black men and and mock them in jail. So that's what I saw when it came to that aspect of the hogs and being hunted and penned.
Yeah, I agree completely. It was very like animalistic, the way that he described it, and it's a really hard concept to just even like wrap your mind around, thinking that back then it's like, how could you treat people that obviously look like human beings that have like the exact same like form as you, yet just different color skin, as if they're something that they're not. It's, you can clearly tell that there was a lot of blockage, and there was a lot of just injustice. I agree, yeah, with just the Europeans just being stuck in their ways and trying to create something and change people that they don't even understand. And I feel like that lack of miscommunication has caused so much harm and has caused so many different perspectives to be thrown on, and especially from back then when there really wasn't much to know or to like kind of go off. So it was really intense when reading the poem, that it was just like, wow, it's like if it didn't end up the way that it did back then, with the slaves dying for their integrity, would it still be going on today? Do you guys think so? Or what's your opinion about that?
I think that it would have totally been different because the things that happen today, your yesterday determines your today, and your today determines your tomorrow. And that goes, a long way back. That's almost 3 generations or even I'd say 4, where, by the time it's at the 3rd generation, you could complain about it, but it's a normal thing. So you can't really change it, and I'd say the change has to, begin in every single one of us, and we all have to collectively agree on, how we could change. But as of now, I think it will just be a cycle that will, I doubt, never end, because there's always, a few cracks or loopholes that, get abused, or, there's always, like, even in today, whatever you see on TV, whatever you see on your Instagram, it's we want it to change, we think it's changed, but we know it's going to take way more than just, a few tweets and a few protests to get the change that is required.
I think I totally agree with what Michael was saying. I think the cycle is just gonna keep going. We're like, I hope for not too long, but there's a lot of things that are missing in the society, and we see it obviously on social media, we see it on news, and we hear it. Maybe some people are still like dealing with those things. It's so hard for me to think about how they were like feeling back then. Like, they were not only mistreated, they were not like living peacefully. They were trying to like steal their dignity. But I'm very glad, like, reading those poems give me so much strength, and like, they were so determined of what they wanted. They knew they deserved more than this, and they deserve to live in peace, and just like I mentioned before, like any human being, like, human rights are just human rights. Like, you want to live peacefully, you want to live like an honorable way. But I'm very glad to that they did wrote those poems so we can learn and know what they were going through. I think we would never be able to know, it never crossed my mind that they were, like, asking for an honorable way to die.
Yeah.
Like, I just imagined the way they were living, and, they were struggling to get their freedom and, their rights, but it never crossed my mind to think that they were dying in such horrible ways. So,
Yeah.
Sorry. I really do agree with you, and I think we can all agree that this song was basically a poetic call to fight. But what makes it sad is that it's something that no one should be fighting for.
yeah.
You shouldn't have to die in order to be honored, to
Yeah.
regain your humanity, your integrity. It should just be seen as a human being. As today, like, the reason why this poem is so impactful is because we're still fighting. A lot of people are still fighting. Like,
Every day.
connecting the poem with today's events, what's been going on around us. People are still dying. We're still fighting. We're still being treated like, the inferior being. And we shouldn't have to, as he said in the poem, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even though monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us though dead. We shouldn't have to be going through all this just to be seen as a person, as an individual.
I agree completely. I feel like why it's so hard for people of different minorities other than Europeans, Caucasians mostly, is because of the beginning of how we were suppressed, how we had to live life on other people's terms. There was no space for us to figure out, okay, this is what I want with my life. This is what I wish to do. This is what I wish not to do, because we were always told, all right, I'm here for this, and that way. And when there was even a chance to slightly express anything else, it was either shunned, it was pushed aside, or in this case, they died because they felt like they could not live the life that they wanted to. And so much built up anger is there because it goes much deeper than just the way that you talk to somebody that's a different race than you.
Yeah.
It goes a lot much deeper than the way that you look at somebody.
The treat.
Yeah, it's even though we are all different human beings, and we are still reincarnated. I like to believe that deep down, there's generations of just abuse and mistreatment and blessings as well that we've all experienced. And if certain individuals aren't able to heal from that, then the anger that has been created during this time when the poem was written, it just continues to travel on and on and on and on. And I feel like that's why we see so much conflict now today, is because there's certain individuals that have a hard time letting go of the reality that equality is not something that you win, or it's not something that is given to you because you did a certain thing. Equality is a God-given right. It was given to us the moment that we were born, and even blessed to experience this human journey. So it's the fact that people feel like they need to control others' lives because they don't have control over their own is the reason why there's so much anger and so much conflict going on. I don't know, have you guys noticed that since there is so much conflict now, how does that affect your interactions with other cultures?
I could agree with that. like especially with you saying like it's being like we have so much anger just from the things that from the past into now, and it's kind of like in our generational line. I can agree with you when you said that too, because it's so much like with minorities. It's not as what's the word I'm trying to say, like it's not as uh like it's not as normal for us to go out to get the resources and help for us to do better, because like you said, we were so used to being told what to do and how to do the things, so I agree with that statement as well.
Yeah, to pick off that, I was born in Kenya, raised there. Just I moved to America for my last years of high school and first year of college, and I'd have to say, obviously, growing up, I never saw myself as a minority because I grew up, in a predominantly black area. So coming to America was a bit of a heavy culture shock because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you get out of the airport,
Yeah.
no one's smiling. You're like,
Yeah.
what I do wrong?
Yeah.
It's all smiles back home. It's all love, and over here there's so much trauma, so much hate that's it's been passed down from generation to generation. And the worst thing is that there's I don't know if it's a stereotype where cause as I moved around and interacted, I noticed that every interaction I had with a African American who looks exactly like me, they'd always say, after we interact, laugh and realize that there's no harm done. They always say, well, why does everyone say Africans hate us? And that question, I was like, why would someone even ask such a question? Because it's all love, for everyone, but
Respect, yeah.
all love, all respect, and it's all mutual. But there's some forces. I don't know if it's the media, because of all the anytime someone sees anything to do with Africa, it's all poverty. It's all that. And when someone, and I'd say that ties down to it's a hidden form of racism, because it makes you either hate or despise just because of what your parents have told you. And you can't really blame your parents, because they were told that by their parents, and it goes very far to ancestry, or not necessarily ancestry, but to the time when there was war or race wars over resources, or the world wars, which were basically just for resources, and that makes a whole generation hate each other. And I mean, we're all from different places, but the fact that we could all sit down and interact and in peace means the change can happen.
Yeah.
There's just someone who's working really hard
For
to
the
make sure
change.
it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I think you made a really good point. And I want to say humans are such nice things. Like we were born to do things in this life and put our effort and our like grow and have like a very good personality, respect everyone. And there's no harm or anything wrong about like learning about new cultures, new people, new nationalities. Like I can agree, like I can understand what you're talking about, because I came from Palestine. And it's just like I always feel like I'm in somewhere like not my it's not my home, like it's not like but there is nice people too that push you to do more and to do good things. And I mean stay still, just be confident and do whatever that makes you feel good about yourself. And back to the topic, respect like all human, and you know, do you guys like agree? Like, do you guys get what I'm saying about like, you know,
Yeah.
moving in from a different,
Totally,
you know,
totally.
yeah, feeling
No, go for it.
welcomed
Yeah.
Yeah.
is such a nice feeling because it's so hard for a person to move out from a country to another country, especially if it's in a like an old age, like you're not, you know, 6, 7, you know,
You're older.
you're older, like you're in like your teens or like your 20s. It's so hard like to get used to some stuff, but eventually you're gonna be able to. So I think like Black African American people were trying, you know, to fight for those things, like, you know, to feel that they're like welcome to live a normal life, act the way they wanted, like, you know, those kind of things that were missed from their lives.
Sometimes I feel like it's that deep-rooted hatred that goes back centuries that still lingers. And then, like you said before, kids are going to grow up and have kids, and then they're going to tell their kids, and then they're later going to tell their kids, and it's going to be passed on. And the media can flip and twist whatever it wants, and you can't change the world's opinion as a whole.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I can agree with you, and I feel like the most confusing part is that the hatred doesn't even probably belong to any of us. However, yet we're still carrying it on as if it's our baggage, and it has to be this way. The hatred has to be there. There has to be certain rules and certain restrictions and certain limitations that some of us and others have to go through and experience. And now I may not understand why from the beginning of time, but it's still confusing and even a little bit shocking to see how the media and how like society's opinion really does make or break the way that any culture or any nationality can be experienced or be perceived by, all because one person was mistreated or didn't like that. It's like, in order for them to feel secure within their own identity, they feel like they have to either hurt somebody or ruin somebody else, Hitler, for example, so that they can gain power, when simply that shouldn't be the case. And it goes much deeper to like where like the ego gets in the way of just allowing all of us to simply live, even though we may not all live in the same way as one another. And I feel like that's why there is so much built up anger, is because African Americans, or even Hispanics, but African Americans for the poem, they weren't even given the opportunity to want to come to America to continue living their life in a different way. They were taken away. And when you do those to certain people, you can't control how they react afterwards.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why there is so much aggression. But the main point now, it's like, how do we move forward from this? Like, what do you guys feel like would help kind of clear the air, or just like allow space for all of us to live equally?
Like I believe I said before, the change begins inside of you, you know, inside of every single person. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from, because no one was born racist, you know, no one was born evil. You could only, you know, train it. And it's a situation where some people who are, you know, very powerful are benefiting off, you know, this racism, you know, whether it's a person who, you know, we have the billionaires who like the Elon Musks, and they're those guys who are behind the scenes, who are like making more than them
Yeah.
off funding, whether it's guns and drugs to the hood, whether it's the advertising poor places, because I could tell, I know for a fact that wherever you're from, the U.S. has very bad images of Africa and Western Asia, the Israel, Palestine, like where you're from, and they always describe it as war torn, or just their perception of blacks as thugs, or Arabs as terrorists, which is and when you go, let's say, to a mall and you see an Arab, everyone's like, no, but you see, it shouldn't be like that, It should be, okay, why should I judge you off how you look instead of what you say, because whatever comes out of your mouth, or however your heart operates, is how someone should be judged. And that's back to what Sabrina said about equality, because we can be equal if we think about others, as less of us, or or you deserve it more, or you should play, like the playing field is unequal, and it will obviously not be something everyone wants to hear, because some people have made it from nowhere to become someone of significance, and now just bringing them back down to being equal. No, not everyone wants to hear that, but if we're to get equality, which is or to be in equilibrium, then I believe it's gonna be an extremely hard task. But if we all do it together, it will be as easy as and it might not happen for us, but for the generations to come down, so that at least as when we all die, our impact will forever be felt, because we could be the ones to break the curses, or and we could also be the ones to let it go, and not take care of our goal, which is to stop all of this corrupt beliefs that was implanted to us from when we were unable to walk. Yeah.
I agree. I love that you say that, because it really does take us back to full circle about the poem, and how that this constant need to break cycles has been happening since the beginning of times, and it really does show in the poem. When I really do the last two lines, it says, men will face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. And it really does tie into what you said about how we're constantly having to fight and having to grow, and even though our impact may not make a change right now while we're in the moment, it will play a bigger significance for our generations to come. And it really just highlights that their death did not go in vain, because now today we are able to live equally, even though it may not be as glamorous or as high of expectations as we may realize. There are some of us that are fortunate enough, and others that aren't. And I really do feel like it's just all determines on the way that you perceive the world. And if you think that there is only hate around, there is only bitterness around, there is only anger around, there is only jealousy around, that's what you're going to be surrounded by. And I feel like you said, Michael, the growth just all starts within us. So I feel like if we all start finally seeing that there is love around, there is peace around, there is hope around, there is equality around, there is justice around, that it will start surrounding us, and it will kind of protect us, and it will create a new generation where everybody can enjoy what life has to offer, because there are no limitations in life. Even though we may sound and say that this is limited, this is limited. There isn't. It's like there's an endless amount of space. Even though there is only a limited amount of land, that doesn't objectify how there's only a certain amount of love to give. There's only a certain amount of equality to give. There's only a certain amount of fairness to give. That's just not true. And I feel like you said, as long as we continue carrying it and carrying it and carrying it, then it will be shown one day.
Oh. So I had a question about the call to action in the middle of the poem. So he asked a question where it's like, "O kinsman, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and their thousand blows deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave?" So I mean that was a question for them and us from what I saw, because how long are we gonna take their punches, or are we just gonna get beaten and walk off, brush it off, or are we gonna take this abuse till we go, or are we gonna let them do this till and in the history books they say, oh, we did this but we apologized every time,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and I think he was really trying to
He was calling.
calling it's no more peace. We've tried to fight a war with peace, but it always ends up in them having the people, the oppressors having the last laugh. And what I got from that was a saying that I always I read a few months ago. First of all, everyone's destiny is the grave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no evading death, regardless. And the fear that was first from I'd say post World War I, when the slaves were being like extremely oppressed, and it became a generational. That's the first site of generational trauma that is still faced today. And the question that I had was the fear. Is it? Well, he asked this question metaphorically, and that's the question that rung up in my or the quote that rung up in my mind. The fear does not stop death, it stops life.
Wow.
And yeah, so I think he was telling people that if you keep living in fear, you're gonna die first. You'll die sad, and no one wants die annoyed or not happy. So that's all I got. What do you guys think?
Just real quick, I want to throw in. I feel like, going off of what you said, Michael, it's like you'll have you'll have two deaths. It's like you'll have a death of the life that you were given to live, and then you'll have a death where it's like you can't have it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, you made such a very good point. I think he was calling all African American people. He was I think he was trying to tell them that, let's get up, let's do something. Don't brush off anything that's happening. Let's call for action. And they did protest, they did stand for their freedom and their rights. I think it's worse to live under someone who's controlling you than to live fighting for the freedom you deserve, and I think post-colonialism has affected so much. I think it still does until today. What do you guys think?
Honestly, I think dying, like, stressed out and just worried about your own rights and all isn't even, I guess, like a sufficient death. I feel like if anyone were to pass in any way, they have to at least be prideful and, like, knowing that, like, you passed with good intentions, knowing that you were fighting for your own, like, nationality, race, ethnicity, and all that is a worthful death.
Yeah, true.
But, like, when you're just taken with, like, no reason at all, knowing that you didn't have any rights or anything, it's just with no reason, like, what was the point in that? And if anything, it, like, frustrates even more people after that, and then you just become a statistic, and it's just so sad. It's just so sad, especially, like, with all the statistics about, like, the whole slavery movement after World War I and everything. It's just ridiculous. It honestly just blows my mind, and especially because it's literally still going on today.
Yeah.
Not the slavery. I mean, there is, but not as much. But it's connected to, say, like, the recent shootings and all that has been, like, going on. It's pretty much the same. There's no reason behind it at all, and it's just because they wanted to.
Yeah. Builds up anger. That's all it is.
Yeah.
There's anger that's still
And jealousy.
Yeah.
Because of what people have and what people don't have.
Yeah.
And especially because of this generation, knowing that everything is seen online. And with the whole influencers and all that.
Yeah, it's
who
so
does have
crazy.
money and everything.
It's if only they knew it's all fake. Like
it's
literally
the whole jealousy
they want
part.
to show us what they want to show us. Literally, like all we see on social media because they want us to see that. It's not because they really have it or they're really like living that kind of life. But
It's all
I think
jealousy and insecurities and all, and people just don't understand that that's not how life is at all.
No,
Yeah.
it's
So
more
we
than
shouldn't continue on, but it's gonna take a while because everyone experiences things and goes through things just at all different times.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I totally agree.
I had one for in the middle of the poem, a question about in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us through the dead. And I just had a quick question. What do you think was going through the mind of McKay when he asked, when he said that even if, the monsters we defy, so everyone, that look like him or act like, or, look like him, talk like him, and, but most importantly, look like him, believe they, were monsters, which is, not anything that you'd wish on, anyone to believe about yourself. So, so what do you think, how do you think they went on with their life, with this kind of mentality?
I feel like that's why it's a lot harder for, like, especially back then, because, like, mental health was not a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, worrying about your self-esteem, like, your attachment style, and so many different, like, psychological points that play such a big role in your life because they were not taught at such a young age, either regardless due to, like, circumstances, just the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It affects the way that one perceives itself. And even though that we are, very visual beings, whenever you see your environment and it's not as aesthetically pleasing, or if it's not as you imagine in your mind, then it's very easy to make those connections. Well, I mean, they say I'm a monster, I'm being treated like an animal, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
Even though that they're causing they're causing them to react that way. Because in Africa, I mean, Michael, you would know that's your culture. To you, that's normal.
Yeah.
To you, this is my values. This is what I believe in. This is what I feel is good. This is what brings me fulfillment.
Yeah.
And anybody would get upset, especially when you see Europeans in, like, their big boots and their big hats coming in and taking, your ancestors away. That's like, who are you to tell me how I should live my life?
Exactly.
It's like, who are you to say that I need to do this, this, and that? That's what you want. That's not what I want. So it is really, like, mind-blowing to just, and it has helped me understand through the poem that not everybody has the same perspective, and not everybody wants to live the same life that,
values and all
the
that.
same values, yeah, but that doesn't mean that, that you're better than them or that they're less than you. I mean, it makes us all equal because we are living the same life. I mean, everybody is born, everybody dies, and what you do in the meantime between those 2 points, it's like, that's on you,
Yeah.
So I just wondering, like, what did you guys, like, understand from the poem?
But picking back, like, basically what you're saying, like, especially, like, about the cultural side of the things, like, I know as far as being, like, a African-American woman, like, if I speak, like, very confidently and loud and things like that, I'm considered the black loud, woman. But that's just who I am. You know what I'm saying? That's just, like, that's how my culture is. We're just confidently loud and we make ourselves known. But now, like, how it was back then until now, it's considered a bad thing or too ghetto or something like that. And I think that even, like, back then, he explains that in a poem, like, that stuff still goes on into today's time. And it is sad. And it's like, but I can say a lot of things about a different type of race, not the non-minority people and how they come off as well. But because I am not that color, and when I say something, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of just goes, like, especially when you said, like, about the African culture and how they, dance different and the things that they show off, that's just who they are, and it's considered monkey looking or something, and it's just not good.
We completely agree with you.
It's just crazy how, like, everything is judged and based off of how the American society should be.
Yeah.
Like, you go to Mexico and it's completely different, like the culture, like the food, just everything, religious-wise, all of that. Same with Africa and all that. And that's why we're so judged, and it's just crazy. Like, why are we going based off of the American culture, and why can't we just go based off of our own culture? It's just crazy how everyone...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And I feel like what you said, the American culture. Well, what is the American culture? You know what I'm saying? Because in America, there's so many different cultures.
Yeah.
So I feel like people should really understand what they're saying when they say, when they try to subject us to being in the American culture. Well, what is that? Like, that's the question that I will ask. Well, what are we supposed to do? Like, this whole world is filled with different people and different cultures, and so for them to try to subject us to being exactly how they will want us to be, no.
And isn't it crazy? Because I know, at least for me, what I had learned, like, growing up in school and all, is that America was open to everyone, right? And it was supposed to be super diverse, and, like, everyone could live their dreams because their home country was always super, like, stricter in a sense. So America was open with, like, their hands all out, saying, welcome in, everyone. Like, yeah, you guys can do pretty much everything that you guys need to do to get to happiness and success and all this stuff, with giving college and school and like a great education and all. But then they hit us with slavery and then they hit us with so many other things just because we're not agreeing to their own rules and their own stereotypes, when I thought you said we were welcomed and we can do everything that you had said with freedom and education, but yet you're suppressing me just because of the color or, like, how my hair looks and things like that.
And then the steps to happiness are altered depending on each person. Like it's gonna be harder for someone else just because of who they are and their background, and it's gonna be easier for other because, you know.
Yeah.
They have the upper hand. I do agree. Always.
All right, so all in all, this was a overall good discussion. So from my understanding, thanks to my wonderful teammates, was
Thank you, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So the poem was 14 lines, but it really carried more than just the 14 lines. It went deeper than the 14 lines, and no stone was left unturned. He tackled the cry for help, the call to action, and the fight made the best man win at the end of it. So it was an overall good discussion, and I hope to see you guys more often for fellow discussions. We were sponsored by ASNC, and yeah, we're just totally grateful. Have a good one, guys.
Shout out Mojo.
Bye.
Oh my gosh.
We're done.
Okay.